Hi everybody, this is Ray and Andrew with REH CPA. We're going into the fourth quarter now, and before year end, we like to talk to people about doing tax planning and getting some tax estimates going and things like that. Andrew, can you kind of tell us about that process and what people should be thinking about or doing to get ready for year end?
Sure, yeah. So what that looks like for us is what we basically do is for a small business owner, we'll annualize your income, which basically we say, well, this is how much profit you have through this part of the year, so let's see how much you're going to have at the end of the year, do a projection, and then create like a mock tax return for you. Say, if you keep the status quo, this is how much money you're going to owe in taxes. That gives us a baseline to make some decisions off of, because some people may say, it's not as bad as I thought, I'm good with that. But a lot of times that gives us a baseline to make decisions off of. So then we start thinking about, what can we do to manage this tax liability? And I tell clients all the time that it's really hard to create a tax deduction without an outflow of cash going somewhere. So, you have to be willing to part ways with some of your money to funnel that money through a vehicle that's going to create a tax deduction for you. That can be buying a vehicle, buying a truck, buying equipment. Those are kind of the low-hanging fruit, we call it, the easy ones. Buy a truck, buy equipment, fund a retirement plan. And also like looking at your entity structure. Sometimes there are changes to what type of taxable entity you are that can help you get some tax savings. But the big thing is like do it now, because we only have so much time to make these decisions and implement these new plans before the end of the year, before it's too late. So a lot of these deductions aren't, if it's January, February, March, there's just not a lot you can do at that point to help manage that tax liability. So another big one that I always like to bring up too is the qualified business income deduction. We've done some videos on that, but it's a really great deduction for small business owners, but there are some limitations around it. So
it requires some planning.
It does. So make sure you're taking the full benefit from that deduction, and we can help you do that. So the biggest thing from tax planning, the biggest takeaway is just I want clients to understand how much they're going to owe, and then I want to be able to say, okay, well, if you do this, it's going to save you this.
Right.
So then we can make some decisions. Every client's a little bit different. They all have different wants and needs, and we can help pinpoint what they can do to help them manage their tax liability and understand where they're at, because there's nothing worse than a phone call in April that somebody wasn't prepared for.
April 1 telling somebody they owe $15,000 and they are completely unaware of it. That's one of the worst phone calls to have to make.
That's a really tough. It's just not. It's not enjoyable for both parties.
Right.
So you hate communicating that news sometimes, and a lot of times I just really wish that we had the opportunity to get in front of that person before the end of the year.
Right.
So that's what tax planning looks like for the small business owner. Kind of doing a forecast, a projection to see this is what you're going to owe, this is what you can do to help manage that, and just think through some options there for you. So, there are a couple, I call them grenades, things that just destroy your taxes, just create problems for you. And one is health insurance. If you're on the Affordable Care Act and you're getting subsidies for your health insurance, last year you had a free pass, and what I mean by that is if you made too much money and you weren't allowed to get health insurance subsidies, you made too much money and you didn't qualify, in 2020 they gave you a free pass. They said, with COVID and everything else going on, we're not going to make people repay those health insurance subsidies. We're going to give them a free pass. So 2020, virtually nobody paid any health insurance subsidies back, but it's back in for 2021. So make sure that you are not making so much money that you don't qualify for those health insurance subsidies, because if you are,
be prepared to pay, because we think that you're going to have to repay it this year if you go over that limit.
Yeah, so that's make sure you understand that. Advanced payments on the child tax credit, that's been going out a lot this year for the last few months.
You're not going to have that money there come tax time. If you've been getting those advanced credits, it's not going to be there this tax year to help pay your liability or to get a refund. So understand that's going to be a big change.
A lot of people bank on that to help offset their tax liability. So if you've been getting it now and it's gone, it's been spent, or you don't have it, we just got to understand how that's going to affect you. So those are two grenades I kind of say that can just totally throw it into. You want to be aware of what those are so that you can know what to expect.
Absolutely. So I guess, like you said earlier, the biggest takeaway is understand your tax liability before year end. So that way you can make some changes, either make changes or make sure you put away the money to pay it whenever it comes tax season. Because the big problem we see is that people will have money after year end, they'll spend it on something, they'll buy something, and then come tax time they owe a lot of money. They spent that money. Try to make sure and set aside that money that you made in that year to pay that year's taxes. Don't depend on the next year to fund the previous year.
Right.
Because then you get into a really bad cycle.
Yep.
Absolutely. Well, that's awesome, man. So it's always really important to do some tax planning in the fourth quarter just to understand what your tax liability will be. We're doing a lot of this right now. So if you have any questions or you'd like some tax planning, some tax estimates done, make sure and give us a call. Thanks.